Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and today we have special guest Trey Kelley. Now, he just started his podcast show a few weeks ago. It's a dynamic podcast that features a book passage reading, review episode, a content episode where he talks about things he's feeling, particularly what he's passionate about at the time, which includes politics, sports, movies, and anything else, and an interview episode where he interviews anyone who his audience might find interesting or influential. He is 21 years old and from a small town in northwest of Atlanta, Georgia, where his dad is the mayor, successful entrepreneur, and bishop for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he also served as a missionary for the same church for 2 years in Utah and Ecuador. So welcome to the show, Trey.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
All right. And I like to start off each episode by asking if you can share with the audience about a time in your business or personal life where you experienced a tough situation and how you got back on track.
That's a really great question. We all have so many experiences like that in our life, I believe. Definitely, I can remember some of my hardest moments during my life where it was during this 2-year mission trip that I served, that I told you about. I was in, especially when I was in a foreign country, this was extremely difficult, adjusting to the language, to the culture, the food, everything. And something that really affected was my mental health. It was really hard for me to stay focused and stay motivated. And I started to feel anxious and depressed. But what really got me through that was reaching out to people around me. I think too many times we try to do things alone, but there's a lot of people around us that are willing to help. And so we just have to overcome our pride. I know I had a lot of pride. I didn't want to reach out to people, but when I finally just put away my pride, reached out, and I was able to get so much support and so much help. And then just they helped me to just start having small wins. And if you have small daily wins and you keep building those up, then that will get you back on track. That will get you motivated, energetic, happy, faster than anything else.
So true. Very, very true. Wow, that's incredible. So what led you to start your show?
Well, really, I've been motivated by a lot of the great podcasters out there that I've listened to, and I love the ideas that they share. And I feel like I have a lot of ideas of my own that I hope could be beneficial to the world, and that I'd love to get out there and grow an audience. Even if the audience isn't huge, I would love to have an audience where people find insight in the things that I have to say.
Yes, that's great. Very important. So what was it like doing the missionary trips? I'd love to hear about that. Like
It
overall.
was an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was an adventure for sure. Like I said, there was hard times, but there was also some of the greatest times I've ever had. It was probably the two hardest years of my life and the two best years of my life as well, which can sound kind of contradictory, but it's true. Because really, the most powerful thing that happened to me was seeing change in others. Because that's the point of these trips that we go on, is we want to bring the gospel of Jesus Christ to people around the world, and anybody and everybody, because I truly believe that the gospel of Jesus Christ can transform people. And I saw it happen before my eyes. And that was, for me, the most powerful experience I could have had, especially as a young man. I started at the age of 18 and I got back when I was 20.
Wow. That's so interesting. So, for those listening in, I think it's so incredible to learn about different faith and religious practices and So from your church, would you share a little bit about the representation of your missionary trip and how that is connected with your, um, I don't know, stepping into adulthood, how that kind of works? I don't know much about it
Like
myself, so
how,
learn. Yeah.
like basically like how serving this mission helps prepare us for our future in life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I truly believe that this 2 year mission trip is like 10 years of life experience packed into 2 years. And because when we go out there, I mean, I was a teenager. I was 18 years old, never lived outside of home, never done much of anything on my own before. And suddenly I have to live on my own, provide for myself. I'm not completely on my own. Missionaries for our church, we go out 2 by 2. So we have a companion with us that we live with. And um, that was something to deal with as well. Just learning how to live with another person that you've never met. And every 6 weeks, we change
Uh-huh.
who our companion is. And so it was an incredible experience. I also had the opportunity to become a leader of other missionaries, to be able to serve and help in that capacity. It taught me so much more than I think I could have learned in any other way going about my life. I think that I learned more there than I would have in college if I had taken those 2 years and been in college instead, which I am in college now. I think college is great, but
Yeah.
I think that was the best way to start off my adulthood.
I love that. That is so great. And that's really interesting. I totally believe that there's something about getting to know people outside in the whole world through travel and sharing and learning about other cultures is so incredible, and what a wonderful experience. Now, for myself, I have 6 children. I adopted three and three of my own. And so, this really big family. And my youngest two, my son actually had a heart condition from
Wow.
fifth grade on. And so when we got into the high school years, we decided to do like a home study program and travel because
Wow.
we actually, he was only given like a year in fifth grade and he lived to be 22. And so
Wow.
we traveled together as a family and we got to see the world, and we did a lot of spiritual studies and got to visit Holy Land, and we went to India. We studied with so many different people and learned the different cultures from all over the world, and we kind of had a blast. And it's like it just really changed our way of looking at the world and connecting with different people. A lot of gratitude came into what we have here in the United States. Even if you're on a budget, we're doing better than like most of the people in the world overall. So it just changes perspective so much. So I think that's an incredible thing to have as part of your faith practice, to be able to go out and then share your faith with others as well. And so that's pretty cool. And now, what is it like having a dad who's the mayor?
It's a really cool experience. It opens me up to a lot of amazing opportunities. To be able to see him in action, to be able to meet some of the people that he meets. I mean, it's a really small town. It's not like he's the mayor of Atlanta or anything like that, but it's awesome to see him be able to lead the city and to really be engaged
Mm.
in as a citizen, engaged in politics, trying to better the community. Um, I think that's one thing that this world, or this country especially, really needs right now is people engaging in politics. And it forever, politics has been such a taboo thing. Like, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about
Wow, and we are doing both
religion.
today. Watch out, everyone.
Yeah, and that's great. I love that.
We have no
Because
fear.
you've got to talk about these things.
Yeah, exactly. It's very important. And oh gosh, what I found with my studies and travels is that when you understand a culture and their belief system and their religious practices and how everything is connected, it really, you understand the people more and you can connect with them. You can do business with people better when you understand where they're coming from all aspects. So if you leave out big
So
parts,
powerful.
yeah, of who they are or what their beliefs, their values are, then you're missing part of the person and how to connect with them.
Yeah.
So it's really important. And I adopted three children, right? So I had children coming in from very different, a variety of different belief systems and backgrounds that we had to, all agree upon certain things. And so it was really interesting. And there was a belief that I had was that the three children that I fostered to adopt, and and I really believed that that was like kind of like a God contract, like a soul contract, like they were supposed to be in the family and in that period of
Yeah.
time, and that they had to have their original experiences first. And that was part of what they needed in their life to become, they're all actually all serving. One is in the army. I have all these Navy
Wow.
and, and
That's
Marines
incredible.
at all. And and so that, and they're traveling the world and really representing our country now. So it's kind of cool. But that was a big thing. And to really listen to what they brought and their experiences and hear their stories really helped my children to have a lot of gratitude for things. So
Yeah.
we also grew up, they grew up in our home, which was very political. And I'm going to be very honest, it was nonpartisan primarily. So I worked a lot with many campaigns for equal education for all, to help children to have really good, fair quality education in the US. And so that was something I worked really hard on. And my children grew up with helping me. Back then, we used to print the flyers, and they would come into the campaign offices. We met all the mayors. We met a lot of people in politics, and we had a blast because it was really to help children. And so they were involved in in that process. They weren't like left aside, and being part of what we did because it was helping kids and this and that. It really taught them a lot about politics and people, and just that was another cool experience that we didn't hide from the children. So they had fun. They have the best memories and everybody just loved them. We'd get the flyers out. We got to ride on the bus with all the people, and do a campaign. We did a documentary about school choice that was filmed at USC. We had a blast. So if you're listening in and you're a parent, whatever your, bring your children in, to whatever your spiritual practice is, of course, and then whatever your belief and value system is, so that they understand and they become really great citizens later on because they're involved and they can speak wisely about whatever the topic is because they've experienced it. So that makes a big difference. Sorry about that. I didn't turn off my notifications. I guess usually I have it off. Focus, do not disturb.
No,
Okay.
you're good.
So, yeah. So, now, what are some of the shows? You've had a few shows already. Can you tell me like a little example about what the shows were like? What did you talk about so far on your podcast?
Yeah, for sure. I've had a couple shows come out now, and one's in the works right now. But my first episode, I first talked about, of course, in politics in America right now, it's really starting to ramp up. We got the 2024 elections coming, and I talked about everything that's going on, especially in the Republican Party with Ron DeSantis and finally entering the presidential race, which was a big move that a lot of people expected. I talked about that and who I thought was the better candidate between DeSantis and Trump. And then I went into talking about sports. A huge debate in the sports world is who's the greatest between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And I had to take on that debate and show to the world how Michael Jordan is the greatest. And then finally for that episode, I talked about not too long ago, I think it was a few weeks ago. I don't know if you heard about it. There was a 60 Minutes episode on my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, talking about our finances and how there was a whistleblower and some controversial things came out. And I talked about my thoughts on that and the whole legal process on it and everything. So that was my first episode. And then I did have an episode about a book reading where we read passages from How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie,
Yeah.
which I believe is possibly the greatest self-help book of all time. And we just dove into that. So that was a really powerful episode. And now we've got another episode coming out. It should come out on Monday we discussed abortion, where me and I had my good friend Corey on the show. We discussed our thoughts and ideas on abortion and everything that's been going around with that. And also we discussed Andrew Tate and what our thoughts are on him, because he's a really big controversial figure in the media right now.
Okay. See, I don't know who he is, but don't tell him. Who's Andrew Tate? Tell me about him.
Andrew Tate is some multimillionaire, maybe billionaire. I don't know. He's a really rich guy who's gotten really famous recently for going on podcasts, and he talks basically about masculinity, what it means to be a man, and what masculinity should be about. I think he's got a lot of really good views, things that have been attacked by society, but when it comes to masculinity, that shouldn't be, that should actually be promoted and brought out, because it creates stronger men and stronger societies. But he's a very worldly, prideful man who his biggest focuses in life is having a lot of money, having big houses, cars, and getting with a lot of women. And I don't think that's what manhood is about. And I think that he does get things wrong a lot.
Well, there are people that still are figuring things out in that realm.
Yeah.
I'll just say it that way. Yeah. And so that is a big thing. And I've done some podcasts about masculinity and femininity and how that shows up in the world and in each of us. And I think that there's, in each relationship, there's definitely the qualities. And if you have whatever the relationship looks like, if two people are really masculine, it's not going to work out if they're both in their masculine. Mm-hmm. And a lot of women today are in their masculine and not very feminine. And
right,
a lot
of
and it's like, okay, in order, there's a balance, and we all have kind of both in us in our own way. There's times where you're softer because you need to be, even as a guy. Like, you're going to be a dad one day, you're going to be softer with your children. You're going to be loving in a certain way. And so it really is important, because a lot of us, there's been a lot of loss in that area of figuring that out.
Yeah.
And it's individual.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and everybody's got to do that for themselves, whatever works for them. But it is really an important thing. I mean, I definitely think there's nothing nicer than, well, a masculine man. To me, the first thing I think of is that I feel really safe. They
Right.
make me feel safe. I know I'm okay. I don't, and then I can be really feminine. I don't have to defend myself because they're going to do that. They're like, I got this. And they mean it. And so that's like,
Yeah.
sign me up for the masculine man. That's awesome. And so that, and there is, and if you're not feeling safe with a man, then he's probably, or somebody that's in the masculine realm in a relationship, you're not going to feel safe. And if you don't feel safe in a
Hmm.
relationship, you can't have a relationship. And I think it goes both ways, because the man has to feel safe in his own way, that you're an honorable woman that's going to be in a good relationship. And so there's a lot, and I think that's the values. Your values have to be aligned when you're getting into a relationship, which may be the next step in your life. It's really important. It's like the biggest decision you'll make. And if you're not aligned in your values, how you're going to live, how you're going to have your faith, how you're going to raise your family, then it's not going to be a good relationship. It's going to be very confusing for children. And so whatever that conversation is, and however you decide when you're dating or getting into marriage or considering whatever that looks like in a relationship for you, that's really important, to be on that same page and know. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
I
yeah.
loved how you said all that.
Oh, thank
I
you.
know it was perfectly said. I watch a lot of Jordan B. Peterson, and have you heard of him? Great.
Don't tell Jordan. I have to look all these
Oh, you
people
haven't
up.
heard of him either?
No.
But no, yeah, he's one of the most famous psychologists right now, and he shares pretty much the exact same views, same way you worded it. So I really love how you said that. Yeah.
Now I'm going to have to really look them up, because we agree. That's cool. That is great. Yes. So that's wonderful, though. And it's so nice because you're very young still, even though you might not feel that young. You enjoy that young time. It goes quick. My youngest is 27 now. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, and she looks 16, but like literally she could be an actress and play a high school role. So age is in your mind, I guess. And she's like, I don't know, I was like 20, and then like COVID happened and all these things happened, and now I'm 27, but I feel like I'm missing like 3 or 4 years from all this
Yeah.
interesting time, right? So what was that like for you, you went through like high school and COVID, during
So
COVID, or?
actually, COVID actually started right after. So I graduated in 2019. So COVID
Okay.
started in 2020. So
Oh,
actually, I
wow.
started my mission trip during COVID. Yeah.
So you were really guided to go, and even through the pandemic, that was pretty brave. Were there some people that put off their
Yeah, it was
mission?
a yeah, a lot of people actually put off their mission trips for that.
Wow, that is interesting. Yeah. So what was your decision that was like, I'm going to go anyway?
Well, I've always known that I was going to go since I was a young kid. I've had dreams of going on a mission, and so when the time came, I wanted to go. I wanted to do it, and they gave me the option. Church headquarters sent me an email and asked me, "Do you want to postpone for 18 months, or you can just go now?" And I said, "Let's go now," because I knew I
Mhm.
wanted to do it, and so I didn't want to wait any longer.
Right. Wow. That's incredible. Well, that's wonderful that you did that. And you had what was like the hardest experience you had during that missionary trip, or trips?
Definitely during that time when I was feeling just really overwhelmed by being in Ecuador, being in a different country, and I was having a lot of struggles mentally. And then I got there's a kind of an infamous disease down there called dengue that comes
Oh,
from the mosquitoes.
right.
And so just during that time, like my worst mental state, I got dengue. So
Oh
and
my.
it's just a terrible physical state as well, because it's a really painful disease. Like it's this fever that you get that's really painful. The nickname for it is called break bone fever, I think.
Wow.
And so I was just out. I was just stuck in bed for like a week, and it was yeah, that was an incredibly hard time. I still had a few more months left out of my 2 years, and at that time I wanted to go home so bad and just get back to America, where we have better healthcare, hospitals, and get feeling better and get mentally better. But I knew I had to stick through it. I started the 2 year mission, and I was going to finish it.
Good job. Yes. So that required a lot of faith to get
Yeah,
through.
definitely.
That was definitely a challenge. Wow. And were you
Yeah,
able to stay connected with your family during that time?
a little bit. So as missionaries, we only talk to our families every Monday, or only once a week.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Oh,
so that made it definitely that was an added challenge of not even being able to connect with my family like that.
wow. And during such a crazy time
Yeah,
already that even the hospitals, it was hard to get in anywhere at a certain
yeah.
point. So, well, I'm glad you're here and you've got a lot of great work to do. And so now, what are your goals for the next year?
Well, my main goals are to, of course, continue with my podcast, continue to grow my audience, and hopefully be able to reach more people and have more amazing opportunities like this one. And then work-wise, I'm actually working to become a police officer right now, and so that's what I'm working towards in this next year. Other than that, um, not much. Just live life, have fun, and make great experiences.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, we've got a new police officer in training soon then. That's awesome. Thank you then. That is another guided um faith guided kind of a decision to be an officer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard time, I think, for police officers right now. A lot of people don't trust police officers. A lot of people want to either defund or get rid of police officers, and I think what we need more than anything is really uh, good people with good intentions joining law enforcement and trying to make our community better. And so I hope that I can give my best effort on doing that.
That's wonderful. And if you're listening into this show, I actually had some incredible interviews with other police officers and how they were rebuilding community and relationships and really working on making the police force improved. And so those are some shows that if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll be able to listen there to the past episodes. And so that might be something interesting if you're listening in and interested in that topic. All right. So that's pretty cool. That is, yes, I love that. That is great. Well, I have much respect for you and your goals and your vision. So now, for those listening in, where can they tune into your show?
Yeah, so I have my show it's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify, it's on all the major podcast networks. It's called the sorry, it's called the Trey Kelley Perspective, and so you can look it up anywhere on there. Maybe you could put a link to it on your show.
Yes, I will do that. The Trey Kelley Perspective. And it was kind of cool because the phone like gave music right at the time that you were announcing your show. So,
Yeah, it was an intro. Yeah.
intro. So that is really great. And now, one of the things that I like to ask is if you could go back in time to your younger self, and I always say around 10 years old, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would love to be able to do that and have some words of wisdom, but I would definitely go back and tell him to be strong, do the little things right every day, because there's a lot of choices that we can make every day. But there's a few really important choices. They might not seem that big, but they're really important. And if we do those right every day, it really affects the outcome later down the road. And I would really do my best to impress upon him, upon my younger self, to make sure to do those little things right and stay consistent and stay disciplined.
Yes, definitely. I agree. Discipline is everything. I totally agree with you there. And such an important thing because when you're 10, you don't have a lot of discipline.
Yeah,
And
right.
then there's people that are like 50 and they still don't have discipline. so,
That's
so,
true.
like you have to force yourself sometimes, but with that, it's like there's form and freedom. If you have the form and the structure to be disciplined, then you own everything. You have the life that you want based on your value system, and you can reach your goals based on what you want in your life. But if you don't have that discipline, you won't have that freedom. So that's it, it's like the key to freedom is discipline. And a
Yeah,
lot of,
that's
yeah,
perfectly said.
yeah, a lot of
So
people
many
say, I'm
people
so free.
believe.
Yeah, go
Sorry,
ahead. Go ahead.
sorry. So many people believe that freedom comes from almost the opposite of discipline, from doing whatever you want whenever you want to do it. When that's not really true, because then you become slave to your emotions, to your desires, whatever you want right in that moment. You have to have it, and you're a slave to that, and that translates to a lot of addictions like drugs, alcohol, pornography, all these different things. When the true freedom comes from when you are free from your own temptations, your own desires, and you have the discipline to put first things first, and then that will bring you true joy, whatever, and true freedom that you desire in your life.
Yes, that really is true. And you brought up drugs and alcohol and all those different things that are um, difficult for some people. I have been really blessed with not having that in my life, and my kids don't have that in their life. So like I don't drink at all, and it's not like a religious thing, or it's just like that's just my values, and it's not. It's a lot of sugar. There's so many reasons, and I like to have my
Yeah,
mind. I like to be in control. Maybe I'm a control freak because I like to be in control. I don't want like something else to be in control of what I'm thinking or doing. So that's always
exactly.
been my thing, and it's really important if you have someone out there that is struggling with that. I do have an entire chapter in my book on helping family and friends that might be going through or struggling with an addiction. So that is in my book, and that's something that if you look around, you might have a friend that's struggling or suffering, and just showing up and being present to support people through their walk out of that is going to be so helpful. And there's ways to do that without um I don't know, maybe helping too much where it's like a crutch and they stay in their addiction. So it's really
Hmm.
important, there's ways to do that. And yeah, so that's another topic I talk about sometimes because it's out there and there's a lot of pressure. I mean, you're 21. There's a lot of
Yeah.
pressure when you go to school. Are you in school now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so there's a lot of peer pressure. And even in my age, people are like, let's go to dinner, let's go drink. And I'm like, I'll have water, I'll have an iced tea. And they're like, why aren't you drinking?
Great.
I don't need to drink. I'm happy already. I have no need for all that. And
Yeah.
so it's one of those things. And so that is discipline, it's self-discipline, and it's dealing with the pressure that comes from the world. And so you have to be really strong in what you've decided and then be disciplined to stick with that.
100%. I love that. And I mean, your content is incredible. I really need to, I'd love to dive more into your content because just everything that you're saying, it's right on the money in my view.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And I look forward to listening to your show as well. And so we are at the end of our time now. And so I'd like to again share your station or where people can tune in to your show, Trey.
Yes, please. It's the Trey Kelley Perspective at any of the major places where you listen to your podcast.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again, Trey, for being a special guest on the show. And for those tuning in, we'll be back after these messages. All right. Stay tuned. Okay. One moment. Okay.